I know that you are dreaming of a better life. I know that you feel stuck and maybe behind. And I want you to know that you are not alone. You have people in your life that you are going to be meeting that have messages for you. Stay awake to those messages. Get quiet. Just find that quiet place for 10 minutes if you can and tune in. You are going to hear messages from your soul's voice if you only get quiet enough to hear them.
So today's guest is a little different than the normal guests that I have on because she has so much to share about a space that we don't have enough of, but that we all need. And I'm going to let our guest tell you a little bit about it rather than me ramble on. So today, let me welcome Elaine Glass to our podcast. Welcome, Elaine. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Patty Ann, this is amazing. So honored to be with Dr. Patty Ann today.
Thank you. Okay, so Elaine speaks about the title of her book, Getting Quiet. Now, I've known Elaine for a while, but I recently had a more in-depth conversation with her than I had in the past. And I was so struck and almost overwhelmed in a good way with how she truly personifies quiet while having a conversation with you. It sounds like an oxymoron, but I was in her presence and we were having a very serious conversation. And I just felt I felt this peace come over me. And I said, Elaine, the world just needs more quiet. There's so much noise. And she started to tell me about her book. So Elaine, take it from there.
Well, thank you for seeing me. And it's taken a long time to become this because my life was not always quiet. I think when I talk about quiet, there's a power to that. There's a rooted power that comes with that. And there's confidence with that. There's a knowing of yourself. There's an acceptance of all of you, all parts of you. And that's taken a long time. That's been a long journey to do that. But I think it's one that it's a very feminine journey in the sense that, as a young girl, we start to, blossom and mature, and then we go and have children, and that's another sort of milestone. And then as we get more into midlife, 40s and 50s, we begin to reap all those seeds that we have sown when we were nurturing, when we were giving, when we were not so much receiving, but that we were really giving. And now I'm in a place in my life of receiving, of reaping all of those beautiful seeds that have grown and harvesting them and bringing them inward. And really what that translates to for me is having these treasures that were deep inside now come up to the surface and be able to give them to the world and feel very, very confident. And so this quiet power is all of that. It's that journey.
Wow, that is so beautiful. And I have to tell you, Elaine, as you're speaking and you're talking about these seeds, all I could think of is, I just got a bunch of nuts. But but what is that expression about iron is forged or steel is forged through fire? And for some reason, I'm just picturing that with all the years. And I don't think it's just women. I think men also, perhaps they have the cultural norms working against them, whereas they have to be loud and they have to be, they think, to be seen and to be present, right? So maybe in a bizarre way, we have the grace of or we're stereotyped if we're leading the charge, as I've been accused of plenty of times in my life. It's like, oh my God, you're so boisterous, like nobody wants to hear from you, kind of a thing. But I want to ask a question. I want to go back a little bit. Tell us something about yourself, about Elaine Glass, that most people don't know. They can't find out about it by reading your awesome books. They can't find out about it by Googling your name. But it's an experience that shaped and very much influenced who you are today that most people don't know about. Because we all have a story that is so influential to the person we are today, but for some reason, we're not comfortable sharing it.
The one thing people don't know is a story of when I was 7 years old. I was on the playground and two sides of me came out in a matter of a 30-minute recess. And remember recess? Two things happened. One, someone came over to me crying, wanting my help at 7 years old. And I sat with them. I don't know what I said or who I was being, but they left me feeling happy again. So that was remarkable to me. And that caught my eye at a very young age, that, excuse me, that was who I was being. The other thing that happened in that 30-minute recess was I got on the swings and I was swinging so high, Dr. Patty Ann, that people came over to where I was swinging and were in awe of how high I was swinging. And so there was two sides of me. There was this quiet, contemplative, creative side that I wanted to nourish more and find out more about. And then there's this adventurous side, this risk-taking side, this side of like, I want to just grab life by the you-know-what and live it to the fullest. And so I would say that has been my journey, is realizing these two sides of me and not being sort of pigeonholed into like, this is how Elaine Glass is, the only way that she is. Like, she has two sides, and maybe she has more than that. But right now, these are the two sides that I have identified, that I love to bring together in my life and express myself in my most authentic self without judgment from myself. Because when we can have the confidence of really knowing those sides of us, creating from that place, the world is not going to judge you, because you're going to be standing in just total confidence. And it's going to be this beautiful confidence. Like when a woman really knows who she is, there's a beauty that comes about her naturally that she doesn't have to try to even do. It's just a part of her being.
That's true. Oh my gosh, I have so many questions with that. First of all, how did you have the wisdom at 7, I'm assuming second grade, to realize, wow, these are two somewhat different aspects of who I am as a little girl? How did you have it? Where did that come from? I mean, I was lucky I could walk and blow my nose at the same time when I was 7.
I'm an intuitive. I'm a very highly sensitive person. At that age, to me, those emotions felt very strong. And I was really feeling those emotions and wanting to understand what those emotions were about. So it was really the feeling and the emotions of two very different experiences that caught my eye, and that I've lived my life really exploring and expanding and creating from those two places.
Okay, so I might be getting inappropriate, irrelevantly nuanced, but I'm curious. When you were swinging on the swing, and as you know, I grew up in Brooklyn, and we used to go. I don't know if kids go to swings today, right? It's probably too dangerous. Don't even get them started. But there's something exhilarating about going up, and then you get that pit in your stomach going back down. Was it the motion of being on the swing that was exhilarating for you, or was it the reaction of the people that were there watching you be such a rock star?
It was both. And that's such a wonderful, beautiful question, because I was a gymnast. So I was used to this motion. I was used to pushing myself to the extreme limits of anything physical. And so it was me being in my authentic self, just swinging as high as I possibly could, trying to be in control of it, yet also feeling so much freedom. And the word freedom is a big value for me. And so I was free to be me in that moment. And also everyone around me, as you said, the people around me were seeing me in my most valued state of freedom. And they were accepting that and maybe even inspired by it.
Yeah, and it's so funny you use that word because as you were speaking, I was feeling a liberation. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we lose that as we grow up, unfortunately. But I'm curious. So so you go home. Do you share the story with your parents? And then, and which part of it, or it was just another wonderful day in the life of Elaine Glass? And then in the next day, what did the students remember you for? Which part of Elaine became the story?
I went home and I know I shared the story with my parents about swinging so high. And that didn't surprise them because they knew that was the adventurous side of me. But I didn't talk about sitting with Mary and helping her in that moment. But to me, what stood out was me just being my true, most authentic self and everyone around me seeing that and being inspired by it. Mm-hmm. The next day, well, actually, it wasn't the next day. It was actually 3 days later because I remember this.
That?
I remember it because everyone started doing a swing contest.
Oh my gosh, what a leader already. Tell me about the swing contest. And you were the judge or you just were the winner?
No. I actually didn't even swing. I let everybody else swing and have fun. And so it was like, how high can so-and-so get? How high can, how high can people get and have so much fun? And I just sat there. I just remember thinking, oh my God, everyone likes to swing like me now. This is amazing. And it was the first time that I thought, oh my gosh, I can inspire people. And that's always exhilarating. And you know that because you do that as well.
Wow. You were not your run-of-the-mill kid, that's for sure. Did you realize that was such a gift at the time? Or
no,
was who you were?
It was just my innocence, Dr. Patty Ann, getting back to the place of innocence that we lose and when we get older. And
the first time that was challenged for you, and do you remember consciously being that challenged? Because I'm sad just thinking this little girl who is full of life and spirit, and then especially girls, they try to squelch that on us.
Well, in my case, it got squelched when I got into a very, very difficult marriage.
So your whole childhood, you carried that through?
Yes. Everything for you. Yes, everything was carried through. Everything was carried through. Of course, there were challenges, but I really felt...
You were a teenage, weren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. So there were challenges, but I think when I really lost that innocence of that Elaine, that little girl who loved to swing high, who loved to sit and hold space for people's emotions and to inspire, was when I got into a very difficult relationship and a very difficult marriage. And I was just trying to survive. And that person did not embrace that little girl. And my innocence was lost. It was just completely lost.
There are so many women and men listening now that I know are already so inspired by you. And they'll be inspired more when they get your book. But for now, share I cannot picture Elaine in a marriage with an Attila the Hun or the quiet version of that would try to snuff out your light. So can you share with us a little bit of that journey and how the lessons you've learned from that you've placed into your work as a coach and that you write about? We have about 5 hours.
I, at that point, was just desperate to get married, to have children.
How old are you?
I was 25 when I met the person I married.
And first name, was it like John or Mark or no?
It was the person that I married. And
the name was... You shall remain nameless.
And, I was always constantly dreaming of a better life. I always wanted to move my life forward. And I didn't want to feel like I was getting behind in any way. I was an achiever, but in, I think, a very healthy way.
Mhm.
And I found myself really living on autopilot during those years, not being aware and conscious of how I was being treated, how I was being spoken to. Um, I wasn't awake and aware enough, Dr. Patty Ann, to knowing the real truth about how relationships are very difficult.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to blame him for our situation. It takes two people.
Mhm. Mhm.
And after many years, about 13 years of marriage, I had two small children. I had gotten to
13 years is a long time.
yes, of living,
Your truth.
not living my truth, actually trying to survive, being up all night in worry, in fear, crying myself to sleep at night. How did I get to this place? How did I get to this place? And I thought, I need to be the healthiest mom, mind, body, and soul for my children. That is what they deserve. And I made the hardest decision of my whole entire life that one day I completed my marriage. I had everything that the world outside would look in and say, that girl's got everything. She's married to a doctor. She's living in a huge house. She's got the vacations, the cars, everything. And I literally was so empty inside that I could barely breathe. I was holding on to so much that the heaviness was killing me. In fact, so much so, yeah, because I ended up getting an autoimmune disease. I mean, the body keeps the score.
That's right.
And I thought, if this is happening to me at 38 years old, what will my life look like? And what will my children's lives look like? So they were the ones that really were the inspiration. And really, I drew off of the strength of being the healthiest mom I could possibly be for them. So I completed that marriage. I went from total certainty to, financial certainty, let's just say, to total,
Yeah, predictability. Yeah.
yeah, to total uncertainty overnight. I moved into a small home. My kids shared.
Pick up and leave. Was there something happen where you're like, that's it? Because for a lot of women, it's the children that get them out of toxic. I'll use the word toxic relationships. Did something happen, or was there a precipitant, or you were just done?
I had been suffering for 13 years and I couldn't take it anymore. What happened was I felt like I couldn't breathe anymore. And when we can't breathe, we don't have life. I wasn't living a life. And again, I was diagnosed and I thought, this is not the life that I dreamed of, nor do I want. And this is not who I am. This is just not who I fundamentally am. I've got to take this mask off that I've been wearing, trying to please everybody and please him, and get back to like that little girl on the playground. How am I going to get back to that? And how am I going to also find other parts of me that excite me and inspire me? So I left. We moved into a small little house. My kids shared a one bedroom, and my life completely changed. The people around me changed. I went back to work full time. I had the luxury of, those years being a stay-at-home mom. Now I have found myself a working single mother, and the uncertainty of my life really stands out to me in those days.
Where did you find the courage
To
leave?
mm,
It's very courageous to do that.
at that point, I was in healthcare, and my patients had taught me so much. In particular, one patient named Jeff, and he was dying of cancer. And he said to me, I said, what are you learning right now? Like, what can you share with me? I mean, this is how I was with my patients. He said, don't wait to do what you really want to do. And that stuck with me. Don't wait to do what you really want to do. And this was a man that probably had maybe a year to live. And he helped me. He helped me get that courage with that message. And that's the thing. People have messages for us. Getting back to get quiet. Are we going to be quiet enough to be present enough in every encounter? And I really mean every encounter, to hear the messages that we have for one another, to help guide us. We all are that for each other. And so when you talked about our conversation we had in person about a month ago and how you felt around me, it's really this quietness that comes over me has the awareness to say, what does Dr. Patty Ann have for me today? What is a message from this wise, wise woman that I need to hear? And maybe she needs to hear from me. And so that's really a conscious decision that I make with every interaction. It's not a heightened awareness. It's not a natural, like super highly focused, but it's just in the back of my mind saying, we all are helping each other. And there's no chance encounter, Dr. Patty Ann. There's no chance encounter.
And I so feel like you so live what you believe. And you and I both know, very many famous people that, behind the scenes of their message is a disaster. And they will all remain nameless, right? But you are so, you congruent with who you are and what you believe and how you live your life. So let me segue now, because I know you do energy work. Okay. So as a very much a scientist and dabbling in neuroscience, I'll dare say I'm an expert in it. And I'm sure if you could school me, we should have conversations later. But the whole concept of emotions and being energy and motion and trauma and our nervous system getting activated, right? And everybody is so angry. Everybody is so angry today. And I feel like they need you to clear their energy. How do you help people with that? And correct me if anything I said is wrong.
Well, I appreciate your trust in me and my abilities around energy work. I'm a facilitator of healing. I don't say that I'm a healer. I think that I'm a facilitator of somebody else's healing.
Well, let me just ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
Would you say nobody can heal anybody else? Would we all just facilitate the healing of somebody else?
Well, that is my belief.
Okay.
That's my belief. Because when you facilitate healing, that other energy, that other person, can take what they want, leave the rest. So they're actually doing the work. If I were to have my ego involved, I would say, I'm healing the world and I can, heal, cure. And there's no ego in a facilitator who's only wanting to really at the root, bring love into that person's energy field. And that's the intention. It always was. Even as a little girl sitting on that playground with that one person, it was my presence and my loving presence. And that's what I feel really truly heals. So when I talk about healing, I'm talking about going from this angry, very agitated nervous system, as you described, to finding ways to calm that nervous system, to get into kindness, into a state of kindness instead of anger, because that really is the result. And that's what I term the get quiet way for me, is I've developed this way of being able to calm the nervous system, going from angry, anxious, completely out of control, to a loving, kind, feeling safe in one's body state of being. And so how I do that is there are 7 focuses on how I do that. I don't know how much you want me to get into the actual method, but I'm here to serve your audience in any way you think I can best.
Whatever you think is important for people to hear. Elaine, I am so serious. The world needs your wisdom. So whatever you're willing to share.
Well, when I realized I needed to get quiet because my life was completely off the rails, my nervous system was completely not healthy. I was getting sick. I was making poor decisions and choices. I went into a retreat center where it was so quiet. I was led there by someone I just bumped into accidentally or not.
Right.
And they said, you should go over this place. It's so calm and peaceful. I think you would really love it. So I went there. It happened to be like minutes away from my home that I didn't even know about. And I walked to the back of this retreat center, and Dr. Patty Ann, there was this beautiful labyrinth. If you've ever walked a labyrinth before, it's this ancient old tool. And it's like one way in and one way out. It's not there to confuse you, but it's really a metaphor to going from the outside world and connecting inward. You know, we always hear we have the answers inside of us. We all have those answers inside of us. And it's like, well, how do you get there? Where is the inside of us? Let me know where that place is. And so I was just wanting to really know how to get there. And it was like, oh, well, if I want the answers, then I actually need to have the right questions for myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was as simple as that. How can I ask the right questions to get those answers? So
simple, but not easy, right?
Simple and not easy. And we're not taught this. There's no manual to say, like, this is how you go inward. This is how you connect to yourself. When we're so outwardly connected, and too much so, that we don't focus on that inward connection with ourselves, that's going to find the love, that's going to find our health, that's going to find the great relationships.
We're so disconnected from ourselves.
That's right. That's right. So the very first thing I did was I started walking this labyrinth. And I'm telling you, I kid you not, it was like a portal into a whole new world of spirituality that I'd never tapped into before. And I've been a spiritual person. And to me, a spiritual person is just somebody who's being aware and conscious of their spirit, of their spiritual life. I mean, it's really that simple. And so I just really doubled down on focusing on my inner world, my soul, my spiritual life, my truth, my authenticity, getting back to that little girl again. And the very first path I took and walked that labyrinth, I got to the center. I was like a whole new person the very first time I walked that path. I heard so clear as day, surrender. Now, at that point, there was no way in hell I was surrendering. I was just trying to keep my life and my kids' life going. I've been, like I said, a single mom. I was trying to hold everything together. If I surrendered, everything was going to fall apart.
Right.
I just knew everything would fall apart. But I hear clear as day, something say, surrender. So I went back into my car that day after I walked the labyrinth the first time. I turned on my car radio. And the very first thing I hear is a message, whatever I was listening to, the word surrender. And I was like, okay, well, I'm in tune enough to know there's a synchronicity here and I can't look away from it. And it almost scared me a little bit. And that's what happens when you start this spiritual path. Like, if you're open to it, stuff's going to come and it's going to sound like crazy talk. It's going to be scary, but I'm telling you, it is the key to living your best life when you open up to the unseen and you trust that. So I didn't go back to that labyrinth for a month because I was scared.
How long, as the native New Yorker, I'm sitting here thinking, how long did it take to walk that labyrinth before this came to you?
Well, this particular labyrinth is a traditional 7-circuit labyrinth, and it takes about 10, 15 minutes, depending on, how fast you like it.
10, 15 minutes.
But you know what? I got into a place of quiet. I could hear the birds chirping. I could hear the gravel below my feet. I could hear my breathing again. My world was so loud. I was so disconnected to my body. It was so just up in my head, the thoughts on repeat and worrying. That it was the first time I was actually just able to get quiet. And that's why I wrote the book, Get Quiet, because that is what I felt I needed. And then what I know my clients have needed too. So I went back finally after a month to get more messages. I thought, well, let's see if I can get even more, because I was desperate. I
have a quick question though.
Yeah.
Did you, and if you did, what did that look like? Like, even I know it's not a coincidence. Surrender comes to you, you turn the radio on. So much for the quiet, by the way, Elaine. I thought you were going to say, I went into my car, I just sat there and listened to the birds. You didn't leave. Turn the radio on, and surrender shows up. What did you surrender? Or what did that mean? Am I being too concrete?
No, not at all. It's a great question. I was the need to surrender the control. To
So
surrender,
rather than hold on for dear life, just loosen up. Something like that.
Surrender the outcomes. Surrender the things that I was most worried about. Was I going to find love again? Was I going to find a path and a passion that I could sustain myself and my family with? Was I surrendered everything. I'm telling you, I surrendered everything from if my kids were going to win their soccer game that day to if I had met someone in a relationship, just surrendering and not holding on so tightly, because that's so forceful. And particularly with women, we don't feel comfortable in our bodies in this forceful way. And the surrendering is just such a beautiful feminine way to live through life. It's not giving up. It's not like, oh, I'm waving the white flag. No, surrender is extremely powerful.
So if you're not committed to the outcome, then you can, what I'm feeling is, if you're not committed to the outcome, then in the result, you can be the best you can be, because it almost doesn't matter, but it doesn't mean that you're not being. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. You also, I would add, you add the element of magic showing up. The things that we're not expecting to show up. And most of the time, it's magic that shows up. Because we can have
I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question about that. I know I interrupted. Is it magic that's showing up, or have we finally quieted down and got rid of the noise, where perhaps it's been there all along, but we didn't know it, or we couldn't recognize it for what it is because there's so much noise, or we're so much on the way to get to wherever it is we think we're going?
100%. You just nailed it. We have created space. Like what I say, like we create space to, when my kids left for college, I walked into an empty room. Like this is the metaphor, really. Like you walk into an empty room of space where you can find yourself again.
Oh, I was so happy when my kids left for college. I was cheering. Because you know why? My house was quiet. It was quiet.
That's right. That's right.
So when your children left, though, were you in another relationship at that time, or were you still single, if you will? Single, that's the right word.
I had just newly gotten into a relationship when my kids left for college. And I did that intentionally, Dr. Patty Ann. My
question.
Yes, our world was so chaotic. My ex-husband was extremely difficult, made it very difficult on us throughout the years, and I was not going to bring in that element into our lives. It just wasn't right for us to do that. So I dedicated myself again to my children. This is just my choice. Everyone's different, but in my case, I surveyed the environment, and I was like, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to get healthy and whole again. This is what they deserve, and this is what I deserve. And so, no, I did not get into a relationship because they were 8 and 10 at the time of the divorce, and so it was about 8 years after that that I've met Michael, who you know.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So that's so interesting. I'm thinking about my mother. She was widowed at 36 with 5 young kids. And for all those years raising us and working, she and my mother, like you, beautiful woman, very attractive, very desirable, and so much smart, really so much like you. And yet she made a conscious choice not to date while she was raising us, probably because we would have destroyed the guy. We would have killed him. He wouldn't have killed us. But she just felt like her priority had to be her children. And, intimate relationships take up so much space, if you will, if that's a good way to say it. So I can appreciate that. And it also seems like I don't know if you weren't ready, but you didn't want to be ready. So when you were ready and you put it out to the universe, okay, here I am, then you find a great guy. And Michael he is a great guy.
Yes, I agree. And that's exactly what the path looked like. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. My attention, my energy was going to my children, meeting their needs, being their love and their support, because that they pretty much just had me. And so I was taking on mom and dad, and I was focusing on making a living. There were a lot of years where I was living paycheck to paycheck, and the uncertainty of that kept me going to like, I need to be working. I need to be, trying to figure out how I can be the best me and maybe find a different career path that can make more money and actually be a lot more fulfilling. So I was on that journey. I wasn't looking for a relationship because, like you said, that was going to be very difficult to incorporate all that.
I'm just curious. When you were raising your boys, it is very difficult to be a single mother, and it's even more difficult to be a single mother. I'm saying this jokingly. I don't know your ex, and have a psychopathological father that's involved. Like sometimes women are telling me, they're like, I wish I wish he wasn't involved. As you can imagine the conversations, right? But I'm not hearing you taking care of yourself too much during those years. Did you? Or how did you squeeze Elaine into the day?
I didn't.
How'd you stay healthy?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
No. I was on, like I said, I was on autopilot throughout those years. We were just trying to survive. I would take walks at night. I've always been a meditator. So I did have some self-care in place. But it's hard when you are living in uncertain times, living in fear, living in worry, holding the weight of life on your shoulders, to then figure out ways of what I would have seen at the time, the luxury of self-care.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now I know otherwise. But at the time, no, we were just trying to survive.
I remember my mother, you were going to laugh, and I think you're mature enough to remember this. I can remember my mother, like, she thought we were all in bed, and this was like her big treat. She would take out a 16-ounce Pepsi out of the back of the refrigerator, And my mother was a twig till the day she died. So don't misunderstand this. And a package of the pink snowballs with the white coconut on it. Right?
Love it.
And that was her, truly, that was her self-care. Like she wasn't even aware of it, but even we knew enough as 5 little runs to know that this woman never sits down or does anything for herself. But inevitably what would happen is, one bedroom, one bathroom, somebody would get up to go to the bathroom. And you'd have to go by the kitchen, like there's no privacy. And we'd see my mother sitting there drinking and eating. And can I have one? And she'd give it to us. Like, don't tell anybody. And you'd go back to the bedroom. We're all in the same room. What are you doing? And then one by one, my poor mother should even get to have a little self-care. And we joke about that. We're joking about it, but it was such a, I think it was the only way, the only time, the only resources she had to take care of herself, even on such a minutiae level, on a minute level.
Yes.
Because you do get she did get a little crazy, if you're always putting everybody else first. Okay, so now your children are grown and they were really lucky to have you as a mom. And I met one of your sons, so I know that. And, you have a son and a daughter, right?
I have 2 sons.
You do have 2 sons. I always get that wrong for people. I apologize. And then you meet this wonderful man, Michael. And so now your life has taken on a whole new, what would you call it? Would you just call it a whole new frequency? What's the term you would use?
Yeah, I love that you would term it that way, because I changed my frequency. And I would say that it was a whole new frequency because I had done the inner work to change my own frequency. Mm-hmm. And how I started to do that was I was observing myself in my career in healthcare. And I was like, what am I really doing here? What are my skills? What am I not seeing that I'm doing that I should be seeing, that I can actually take that same skill set and maybe put it into a different how could it differently? And so that's what I did. I noticed that I was able to sit with people, listen to people, and help them with their lives, like down on the playground. And this is like what I would say to people is to, even if you're not happy in the job that you're in, you're doing the same skill sets that you can transfer into a lot of different places. You just have to have the confidence and the knowledge and the education. So what I did was I took all those skill sets that I had been using as a dental hygienist, sitting next to 40,000 patients one-on-one over 20 years, taking those same skills, being able to be tuned to people's bodies, energy, being able to listen to them, seeing the medication they were on, knowing what was working in their lives, what wasn't. I mean, that was really my life class. People go to life coaching school, but like sitting next to over 40,000 patients, that is a life class in and of itself. And they really taught me about how to be an adult.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they taught me how to grow up, how to be in a healthy relationship. I saw what wasn't working in their relationships. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I want to change that. I saw what they were doing and eating and being and thinking. And then I saw the medications they were on and the diseases they had. And this was all like, and I was interested in the mind, body, soul connection at a very young age, like in my early 20s. And I got Louise Hayes's book, You Can Heal Your Life. And I had it in my dental office. And every time someone would come in with an ailment, I would look to see what the mental emotional was. Just really so for over 20 years, this is what I did. I wanted to make that connection. And so these were the skills that I was seeing that I was able to do. And that was back when life coaching was just kind of getting started. I mean, people were going to these types of educational schools, but so I just took the leap and I was like, let's just see how, if I like this or not. But I was still in my full-time job. I had to be. Mm-hmm. And the very first day I sat in this life coaching class, I wrote on a piece of paper after I'd listened to the full day of teaching. I wrote on the piece of paper, I am home.
Mm.
This is what I meant to do. I'm a natural counselor. And so I needed to take all those skills that I had had my whole entire life and now put them into helping people in a more organized way. And so that's what I did to start to change my frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And I took the leap and I left that little hygiene room in those little mouths. And I went and I swung so high and I opened up a life coaching business. And I mean, the rest is history because I changed my frequency. I changed my passion. Money started coming in like never before. I was living my best life and I met Michael. So I was ready. I was ready for the next stage of my life. I'd raised my kids into amazing human beings and most importantly, kind human beings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was ready now. It was my time. It was my time to walk again. It was my time to use my voice again. And it was exciting, very exciting.
And I think all of your clients are so lucky to have you. And, I'm picturing the dental, I've worked with a lot of dentists over the years, and I'm picturing the dental hygienist, like people are vulnerable when they're in that chair, and you probably calm them. And also like the lady that you sit next to on the plane, you tell them anything. And these people probably told you everything and they knew they'd see you again. So there's an acceptance that you radiate. There's no judgment. Very much so. That's what I feel from you. Tell us a little bit about the book, Get Quiet. I want you to unabashedly brag. And I want you to tell people where they can get it and where they can learn more about you. Unabashedly promote yourself. I'm giving you permission.
I wrote a book called Get Quiet: 7 Simple Paths to the Truth of Who You Are. I believe that when we uncover the heaviness that we carry, there are treasures inside of us, and the truth of who we are matters so much. You can find the book at getquiet.com. That's easy. And you can find out more about my own activities at elaineglass.net. The book will take you through the pathways and the journey that I took to know the truth of who I am, to connect to that innate power that we lose because life gets hard and life gets noisy.
That is beautiful. I have one more question for you. You ready? Okay. Imagine there's a huge box in front of you, and everything you've ever lost in your life is in that box. What's the first thing you would reach for and why?
Faith. I lost my connection to having conversations with the divine. And I would reach for my faith. I would reach for that connection, because for me, that has given me the strength and the comfort to take the next baby step and the next baby step and the next baby step after that. So I would definitely reach for my faith.
And is there anything else you want to say to share with people? Any of your wisdom?
I know that you are dreaming of a better life. I know that you feel stuck and maybe behind. And I want you to know that you are not alone. You have people in your life that you are going to be meeting that have messages for you. Stay awake to those messages. Get quiet in those places. Doesn't have to be a labyrinth, but you can seek one out. They're beautiful. Mm-hmm. Go into a closet if you need to. just find that quiet place for 10 minutes if you can. And tune in. You are going to hear messages from your soul's voice if you only get quiet enough to hear them.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Elaine. Thank you so much. This was just so wonderful, enlightening, peaceful, and I'm sure transformative for many of our listeners. So thank you. And I highly encourage everybody to get quiet. And one of the best ways to get quiet is to purchase Elaine's book, Get Quiet. So thank you, Elaine.
It's been an honor, Dr. Patty Ann. Thank you so very much.